All right, everybody, welcome back. Episode 39 of Sports with Skiz. Happy New Year to everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. I hope 2026 brings you nothing but blessings. Knock, how we doing over there?
We're doing great, man, and I agree. I hope everybody's gonna have a phenomenal 2026. And it starts off with this. I have a surprise for you, buddy. I've got a surprise for you, buddy. I've got a surprise for you, buddy. Let me hold on right here. This is a prototype made by mom and dad. The Tanaka family are big fans,
Let's go.
and just wanted to show this to everybody and to you as well, my friend. We'll have one here for you soon, okay?
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. That's definitely something that we're going to be doing here shortly is getting more apparel and everything like that, from stickers to hoodies and shirts and stuff too. So that's dope. Tell the parents I said that that's awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean,
Uh,
so real quick, not just a surprise, but I mean, you had a pretty good weekend as well, bro. I mean, the Steelers, congratulations on that holy water in the end zone there, boy. I tell you,
Thank you. Thank you.
deal. And shout out to Montana State as well because you're a big fan of them, and what a phenomenal FCS national championship that was.
Yeah, shout out to Montana State, man. It's for those the people that like don't really understand why I like them. Casey Fox, the gentleman that we interviewed, that's now the Tennessee Tech athletic director. When I was kind of looking to get into this about 2 years back, I just shot him an email on a whim. He was the deputy athletic director at Montana State. I always had a fascination for Montana State, the North Dakota states, the small schools in weird locations that always develop and produce on the field. And he was the first person to give me a shot at practicing this stuff. So I hopped on the bandwagon full heartedly. So I was happy as hell to see this, not as much as some of those guys or some of those fans up there that have been waiting for this since I believe it was 1987, I think was their last national championship. I know it was in the 80s. Last year, they had some heartbreak and lost last year, but then they bounced back this year. And what a game. Shout out to Illinois State as well, too. The final score 35-34, an instant classic. And it's so funny, not because we've been talking about these teams like all year, not really Illinois State, but at the FCS level and just the talent that they have. And I wake up the next day and I'm seeing all these people like, wow, the FCS is awesome. That game was tune in more. Like it might not be Division One FCS, but these teams are just below them. And some of them could move up and say like a group of five conference and produce, such as like a Montana State or a North Dakota State. So it's not, levels above or levels below. It's not JUCO ball. These guys are Division One athletes. They're not getting paid the amount that some of these dudes are, but we seen it with some of the outcomes and the stats of some of these guys. We mentioned before we hopped on Taco Dowler. That kid is a baller. Shout out to his twin brother as well too. That is on the defense. He played through, I believe, a separated shoulder. Caden, the safety, he was starting, played through a torn shoulder, came back in, made a couple of plays. Illinois State, I mean, hats off to them. You guys didn't get it done, but in reality, like you guys are the winners of the playoffs. We made videos on it. The way that you guys were able to go through the gauntlet in the FCS playoffs after losing your last game by 30 and probably were thinking that you weren't even going to make it. And then you go the whole way on the road, traveling every weekend, being underdogs, upsetting all these teams, and you get to the national championship. Shout out to you guys, and more specifically, shout out to the NCAA for finally making one good decision and moving this game to Nashville. Because my God, that environment was awesome. I think it was just below a sellout, but if you looked, it looked like everything was packed.
Yeah, 100%, man. When I was watching that game, yeah, I mean, almost every single seat or bench was filled in that stadium, man, and it was a great environment. Like you said, hats off to Illinois State. I want to give a quick shout out to quarterback Justin Lamson. Mike, you put me on to him, and he makes a big time throw, pressure in his face, 4th down and 10 to win the game. Taco Dollar hits him on the corner route. And the funny thing about it is they actually ran that same exact play on 2nd down, 2 plays prior, and he bypassed the corner through the slant route. It was incomplete. I'm really surprised Illinois State went cover zero there. But I tell you what, I mean that's great coaching. discipline and preparation, they went right back to it, and that kind of displays, what Montana State has built for the last several years. In terms of the continuity of the program. But I want to highlight one guy for you, Mike, real quick. 5'11", 195-pound quarterback Tommy Rittenhouse for Illinois State. When I tell you, Mike, there's certain guys that have it. And when I say it, I mean heart. I mean, damn it, Mike. Damn it, this kid played his tail off. He played his tail off. They were down, 21-7 going into the half, and the second half was all Illinois State, man. I mean, they completely dominated the second half. This kid did everything. He was just making all the right throws. Congratulations to wide receiver Dylan Lord. My goodness, he played a heck of it. 13 catches, most in an FCS national championship game, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he matched Taco Dowler so well. I think he's only a true freshman, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe a true freshman or a red shirt. Yeah, he's a freshman. Sure. So either red shirt or true. I can't remember exactly what it was.
True freshman who just entered the transfer portal. So good for you, bro. You earned it. Hopefully you find a home. But yeah, man, Illinois State should have won this game. I mean, if they shouldn't have won it, to lose in the fashion that they did is truly heartbreaking. Game tied 28-28. About a minute left, maybe just under. You have a kick that's blocked. You get the stop. You force Montana State to punt the ball. You go to overtime. You score a touchdown super quick. Again, Dylan Lord. And then just a botched, blocked extra point. 2 blocked extra points is just unbelievable. So to lose 35-34 like that, man, I mean, I really felt for those kids because I personally was rooting for Illinois State, Mike, plus 10.5-point underdogs, everything that they've been through the playoffs, man. I mean, you're a Montana State guy, so I could understand where you're coming from, but man, I had to go root for them, man. I had to. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of torn because I do, me, I love the underdogs as well too. So I was just hoping for a good game, and really that's what we got. I really wasn't predicting too much on like the spread or anything. I really just wanted Montana State to pull it out, and like you said, that cover 0 that they ran on that 4th and I think 10 or 4th and 11, it reminded me a lot of an NFL game earlier this year. I believe it was Tampa Bay against the Arizona Falcons, I believe, and there was like a long 4th and like 15, 4th and something of that nature, and the Buccaneers ran a cover 0 and they got the first down, and then Atlanta went on to score and win the game. So it reminded me a little bit about that. But yeah, shout out to Justin Lamson, man. That dude is a beast. Stanford kind of turned him away a little bit. He didn't really see a lot of playing time there, and then he goes to Montana State, falls out, throws for 282 touchdowns, that game-winning touchdown pass to Taco Dowler, and then also shout out to Dane Steele. I believe he had that long 33-yard reception at the end of the half where he hurdled a guy, stayed on his feet, and then scored. So that was crazy. And then also, too, I know you already shouted him out with Tommy Rittenhouse. That dude is a baller. Again, this guy is nails. He threw 5 interceptions, against North Dakota State, still came out and slung the rock, was able to get them the victory there, then bounced back the next 3 games. But also, shout out to Victor Dawson as well, too. That dude is a beast. He finished with 29 carries for 126 yards. If you go back, look at his playoff run, he had the first game 72 yards, then against North Dakota State, a team that's really good defensively, 137 yards, then UC Davis 148 yards, and Villanova 155, topped off with 126. So shout out to those guys. You already mentioned Dylan Lord did hit the transfer portal. He's an Arizona kid. It'll be interesting to see if maybe he lands to be a Sun Devil or something like that. But keep an eye on some of these other guys as well, too. I think both these teams will have a couple of other people hit the transfer portal and see what they could get at the FBS level as well, too. So, yeah, shout out to the FCS, man. Shout out to Montana State again. Huge victory. I know you guys are living large up there in Montana. So that was really, really cool to see. And I'll be looking forward to seeing, who bounces back and what happens next year there. So, moving on, Knock, I know another game that you kind of wanted to highlight was the Division III National Championships with UC River Falls upsetting North Central 24-14. I know you were dialed into this game. I was not as much just because my Steelers were playing, so I was watching that a lot. It was a winner go home. But Knock, take it away with this game, man.
Yeah, North Central, again, they've, over the last 5 or 6 years, they've been to the last 5 or 6 national championship games. They haven't won them all, but they won three of them. So they've won
Three, yeah.
six. It's going back to 2019. If you're not, they didn't go in that COVID year. Nobody did. But with that being said, I mean, North Central just such a dominant program. They've really built themselves something. And here comes Caleb Blaha. I just, River Falls just absolutely dominated. Again, just another underdog team that dominates in the second half. I mean, this kid was running all over the field. It was like child's play, man. It was like it was his playground. It was like playing animal ball for him. They just owned it. They owned time and possession. They owned the yardage. They owned how many points were scored in the second half. So love seeing the underdog win. And Caleb Blaha, best player in Division III football.
Yeah, yeah, we love it. And shout out to UC River Falls as well too. In their semifinal matchup against another tough team, John Hopkins, they had the ball 3rd and 6 with under a minute left at their own like 20-yard line, completed a pass for damn near 80 yards to score a touchdown and go on to win that game to get to the national championship as well too. So they were resilient the game before, and they came out and they made their mark. I want to say this is their first national championship um, for their program as well too, isn't it? I don't think that I've seen their name in the past. If so, it might have been like early 2000s or the 90s, but that was usually dominated, I feel like, by Mount Union and Wisconsin Whitewater. So yeah, shout out to UW River Falls. That's huge for the community up there. And North Central, I'm sure they're not going to go anywhere. They'll bounce back. Shout out to you guys. You had a hell of a season, finishing it off, I believe, 14-1 with that single loss coming in the national championship. So shout out to you guys, man. That's another thing. D3, definitely some good ball there as well too. I know they don't get a lot of love just because it's the lowest out of the divisions, but they got some ballers there, man. I mean, look, you got Pierre Garçon, who went to Mount Union. You got my boy, I forget his name. He just signed a huge contract with the Denver Broncos, the right guard there. He was an all-pro, Pro Bowler. So you get some guys who go D3 and they're just, undersized coming out of school or just go unnoticed. They stay there, and then you never know. The development is really nice. So shout out to them, man. And then obviously we covered that before. Ferris State rounds it out with the Division II national championship. So we won't go over that. We talked about it already, but just three really solid programs that don't get, the light shined on them as much as say, the Division I FC or FBS teams. So with that being said, Knock, before we jump in to our breakdowns and talking about some of the games that happened last week, and then talking about some of the ones that are happening tomorrow and Friday. I know you mentioned the transfer portal already with Dylan Lord entering, but have you been keeping up with this Damon Williams stuff from Washington, the quarterback?
A little bit. From my understanding, about 5 days ago, Damon Williams pretty much signed a contract to stay at the school and remain a part of that team. And here we are, I think yesterday, today, maybe the day prior. I'm a little spotty on that, but I guess he wants out and he wants to
Yeah,
go like.
yeah. So a couple of things. So it's really odd, and I'm still trying to keep up with it. But yeah, 4 days ago, he essentially signed a contract to stay with Washington, to come back to be their starting quarterback again. And then the grimiest thing really that he did when he announced it yesterday, just clearly out of the blue, didn't tell any coaches, didn't tell any football players, like his teammates or anything like that, from what I'm reading. He did it while the university was holding a funeral for a women's soccer player that tragically passed away from a type of cancer. So that caught a lot of people off guard. And essentially in the contract that he signed, again, from what I'm reading, this is from Yahoo Sports, there's a provision that prohibited him from entering the transfer portal. So they're essentially refusing to officially enter his name into the portal. And this looks like it could be a potential tampering situation from LSU and from Lane Kiffin. And another thing that makes it really weird is yesterday, LSU basketball was playing at home, and who's sitting courtside is Lane Kiffin and Sam Levitt. And Sam Levitt's looking at his phone, seeing the news, showing it to him, like, what is going on here, this, that, and a third. So it's really, really weird. I saw Pete Thamel, who does a lot of good recruiting or a lot of stuff for ESPN, does the college stuff. Is it looks like Washington's going to try to pursue legal options to enforce the contract. So I guess there's a buyout in the contract that reads the cost of the buyout is in sole discretion of Washington. And then two, the contract specifically states the institution is not obligated to enter the student athlete into the transfer portal or otherwise assist or facilitate the student athlete's transfer to another college or university. So it's really weird. I've said it to you, I've said it to myself in the past, like we've lost all sense of loyalty in the college athletic sport. And honestly, you could feel a type of way, I guess, about Damon Williams. I know I have some choice words that I think or choice thoughts, I guess. You could feel a way about Washington not honoring that he wants to pull out and go to LSU. But the main culprit here, who continues to stay silent about the whole ongoing saga of the transfer portal and NIL, is the NCAA. They don't come out with anything to basically say, hey, we messed up with this. We kind of just shot ourselves in the foot by saying, hey, anything goes. I think I saw the other day that there was over 5,000 kids in the transfer portal, and a lot of those guys being multiple year starters at schools and not like bums who don't get any playing time. And it's just like they're just bag chasing, which essentially you can't really blame them because, there's people in the workforce that leave jobs to go to another higher paying job. But I will say, is it every year that they're doing so? Is it every couple months that they're doing so? Like, I think something needs to come out to where, and I've heard people talk about this and I kind of like it, but there's got to be a plan. It's either they're signing a 2-year contract as soon as they get in there where they have to stay there for 2 years. Then, hey, your last 2 years, you could go do whatever you want to do. I've heard where it's, if you transfer in, and once that roster sharing stuff comes in, hey, if you transfer any other year after your freshman year, you go back down to the freshman year pay scale. So you don't gradually work your way up. You stay at the same amount of money. I also heard guys like PMT, shout out to them today. They were talking about, hey, if a guy does stay at a university for 4 years, why doesn't the NCAA say, hey, we're going to give you a bonus and we're going to allow you to have a 5th year of eligibility just to kind of bring that loyalty back? Because it's crazy. I'm seeing people that it's just going to be hard to continue this. It feels like football, like college football, is literally like falling apart before our eyes, if that makes sense.
1,000,000%, and there's 155 quarterbacks that are in the transfer portal. Mike, there's only 136 FBS schools. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you said, 5,500 overall players are in the transfer portal. I mean, this is what we've come down to, like we said about, FCS wide receiver Dylan Lord. I mean, the kid plays a phenomenal game and I'm sure he had a great season, but it's like, hey, it's off to the next place. And, but there's also situations like with Parker Livingstone at Texas, and Texas basically says to him, hey, we're bringing in Cam. I can't think of his last name, from Auburn. They're bringing him in as a wide receiver amongst a couple other guys, and they say to this kid like, "Hey, listen, it's you can choose to stay here and stay on the roster, and you won't play, or you can have that opportunity to go and sign with an Oklahoma in the transfer portal." You know what I mean? And I a wide receiver like Parker Livingstone does go and he balls out in Oklahoma, because that's it's not right, and like you said, it's falling apart between our eyes. And there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons to this, right? I think my biggest pro with the transfer portal and the NIL is that you are going to have different schools with different opportunities to win national championships now. I mean, like a guy like me, I'm just getting a little tired of watching Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia, and it's like, every and LSU gets thrown in the mix, and it's like it's nice and it is refreshing to see teams like Texas Tech make it this far, or as far as they did. You know what I mean? Indiana, Miami, another one. Ole Miss is another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I do like that. Again, when I was in college, I wrote a paper on this was back in probably 2014. I wrote a paper basically advocate, like I always wanted players to get paid. I thought that should be a thing. These universities bring in so much money. I did a study, and Alabama's football program was bringing in more revenue than essentially, I think, more than 28 NHL teams, a couple of NFL teams, and some MLB teams. So they bring in a lot of revenue. I always want these guys to get paid. But some of these guys who think the grass is greener on the other side, they're going to learn real quick that that's not the case. Just because you balled out at one place does not mean, hey, they are throwing me a bag, but are you going to be okay if you go and sit the bench? I'm talking about a guy like Mackay Hughes, who at Tulane, his first year as a starter ran for 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. The next year, 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns. You want to know his stats right now at Oregon? 17 carries, 70 yards.
Wow.
And guess what? He just re-entered his name into the transfer portal. So you're going to get a lot of things that look like this, or you'll get some guys who, transfer to these big universities and don't play the way that they did at their other school. And you're going to get pissed off fans or donors that gave a lot of money to these kids. And it's say la vie. They don't got to give anything back to you, but there's got to be something. I know that I was kind of old man yells at cloud whenever I saw USC saying like, this guy so and so resigns with USC, so and so resigns, but like that's what it's going to have to come down to. It's either you bring in contracts when they're a freshman, you make them sign a 2 or 3 year contract where they have to stay there, and then boom, they could go do the transfer portal, or you make it a thing where you get one free transfer, and then if you transfer again, you have to sit out a year. Like, and you could throw like, oh, coaches can move whenever, coaches do that. How many coaches are coaching for 1 year, going to another school, and then going to another school? That's really not the case. It's usually a small time coach at, say, like a North Texas will spend 3 years there, and then boom, they go somewhere else, or 2 years, and then they don't do as well, and they get fired. So it's like I don't get that argument at all. Coaches, I think it's bullshit that they're able to do that as well too. But again, they're not transferring to a new university to coach every year like some of these kids. I'm seeing guys like I'm going to say DJ Finney or TJ Finley just because he's one of the first ones that I go. And it's like he entered his name in the transfer portal. And it's like this dude was already at LSU. He was at Auburn. He went to Western Kentucky. Then he went to Texas State. Then he was at Tulane. Then Georgia State. It's like, bro, how many teams are you just doing a United States tour? Like, is that all you want to do? And I get, again, you want to be set for life and stuff, but something's got to give with this, man. I really don't know how you fix it. Again, it starts with the NCAA. They're the main culprit, as always. They don't want to step in because they don't want any lawsuits. They don't want to look like the bad guy. Well, tough shit. You guys are the ones who did this, and essentially they made their bed. They're laying in it. Nut the fuck up. You got to do something to change it. That's my take on it.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, bro.
Yeah, it just gets me a little bit fired up. But I digress, Knock. Let's talk about some of these games that took place last week. We'll start off with one of the biggest shockers, I guess, from last week, and that's the Miami Hurricanes upsetting Ohio State 24-14. And Knock, we talked about it whenever they played against Texas A&M. This defense is legit. That front four is legit. Julian saying you could see was panicked. When they had to put the game all on him, he was panicking. He threw that early pick six that put them up, I believe, 14-0. And it was basically game over there because, again, they put Carson Beck in a situation where he didn't have to risk anything. 138 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Just go out there and be a game manager. You don't have to throw for 250, 300 yards. Our defense is going to do this damn thing for you. We're going to lean heavily on them. And, I mean, they ended up with 5 sacks. They had 7 tackles for loss. They forced 2 interceptions, and they just played lights out. And it's got to leave a stale taste in your mouth if you're Ohio State, man. You're losing the last 2 games. I heard some guys joking, basically saying that Michigan defeated them yet again because they used all their superpowers to beat them, and then they lost, which won't fly over well. But you lose your last 2 games of the season, and you're kind of sitting there, thinking, what the hell's next? What's for next year? What are we going to do here? But shout out to the Hurricanes, man. Mark Fletcher, 90 yards on the ground as well, too. He was kind of the key guy on that offense. But my hat goes off to the defense more specifically. Those dudes balled out.
And I think this week coming up, versus Ole Miss, it's going to be a completely different thing for Carson Beck. It's going to be a whole different scenario because, how long can you get away with just throwing for, we're talking under 140 yards as a collegiate quarterback here. That's really not that good granted, they're winning. You know what I mean? So it's no fault. It's not like he's doing anything wrong. You know what I mean? He's not holding his team back. However, how is he going to perform when his team gets jammed up in a situation where they play a good Ole Miss defense, a fast Ole Miss defense, and an explosive offense? All right, we're talking about a quarterback on the other side in Trinidad Chambliss who's younger, but my goodness, he's more mobile. He's got a pure arm. He can make all the throws. He's a good decision maker. So there's a lot of variables there going into Ole Miss. You know, can Mark Fletcher sustain what he's doing? And I think he's a good enough running back to do so. You know what I mean? But is Miami going to ever get into a situation here within these next two games potentially where Carson Beck has to make a throw, where he has to, be relied on and counted upon as the veteran that he is, because that's what he is at this point, is a veteran. You know what I mean? So definitely excited. I'm rooting Ole Miss all the way versus Miami. Congratulations to the Hurricanes. They're back, but still rooting for Ole Miss based off the situation. Not that we were jumping into predictions on that yet.
Yeah, no, you're good, but you're right, and I think it's going to be something that Carson Beck might want to have to prove, especially with this being his last year. He wants to show NFL teams that he has that moxie, he could get it done. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on this week. But shout out to Miami, man. That's another huge win for you guys. When pretty much everybody besides your own fan base was on the opposite side. But we'll move on here. Another game that happened on New Year's Day. Give me a second here. I was trying to go in order, but for some reason that was messed up. We'll start with Oregon taking on Texas Tech. Just an absolute dominant performance, again, by another great defense. Oregon beats Texas Tech 23-0. Knock, go ahead and kick us off with this one.
Well, I kind of want to go back to the transfer portal here for a moment, and not just transfer portal, but I think the NIL, because quarterback Baron Morton has been at Texas Tech for the duration of his collegiate career. As a guy's getting paid, anywhere between like $4 and $7 million, he doesn't have to go pro. I mean, look, their offense was not that good this season. Now, granted, they went out and signed Brennan Sorsby here this week. Cincinnati's quarterback. I like the guy. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he'll be much better than Baron Morton. But with that being said, I mean, for a quarterback to be getting paid as much as you're getting paid in college football, we simply cannot be not scoring any points. This also has a lot to do with Texas Tech's coaching. I mean, in some games you can't just go for it on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 willy-nilly like it's a game of Madden or NCAA 26. You just can't. Sometimes you need to build and see on the scoreboard that there is something other than a freaking goose egg. And on numerous occasions, Texas Tech had opportunities to kick field goals, to get 3, to get 6. Okay, yeah, they lost 23-0, but that completely changes the outcome of the whole game. On top of the fact that I'm pretty sure Morton threw like 2 interceptions or had an interception fumble. Shout out to their cornerback over there for Oregon, the freshman Finney, Brandon Finney, I think his name is.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier in the year too. True freshman, a beast.
Yeah, he balled out. So, that Oregon defense is tough. And, one of the predictions I had coming into the game was just that. It was just Oregon plays defense. Texas Tech's offense was not great by any means throughout the season. And I think Oregon is going to be tough, versus Indiana, but they're also dealing with some transfer portal issues themselves. We'll get to that here shortly.
Yeah, and shout out to Oregon, man, especially their defense. And it sucks for Texas Tech fans because their defense played just as well as Oregon's as well, too. I mean, if you look at Oregon's stats on 3rd down, they were 4 of 19. They couldn't really get much going, especially in the running game as well, too. It kind of all fell on Dante Moore's hands. He finished with 234 yards. But, yeah, very, very big letdown from Morton. Just finished with 137 yards, had the 2 picks and the fumble, like you said, and just could never really find their footing. Like you said, a lot of gambles. And this is a game where if you don't have to go for it, don't do that. Like, play the field position game. I think sometimes they get a little bit too antsy, and things like this happen. Shout out to Terrence Carter for Texas Tech, the transfer from Louisiana. He led their team with 9 receptions and 72 yards. The next closest guy to him in receptions had 5 and then 2. So they were basically shutting everything down with Oregon being that. So big ups to Oregon. I know I picked against you last week with Texas Tech. Again, I was just more so betting with my heart. But if you rewind the tape, I said I wouldn't be shocked if you guys won. I just didn't think it was going to be this dominant of a performance where Texas Tech didn't even score a singular point. But I digress. We'll move on from this game. Not much more to really talk about, honestly. And the next game that we're going to talk about is another blowout with Indiana beating the shit out of out of Alabama, 38-3. Just utter dominance again, especially defensively. Shout out to Signetti, man. This dude is just a ball coach. First of all, he wears a quarter zip with no shirt underneath it. Like, that is just the most football coach thing I've ever seen in my life. And then early in the week, I didn't see this until after, but did you see this quote from Signetti? There was a reporter that asked him, basically, I'll read this quote. So this is from the reporter. It said, about Alabama mystique. How do you convince your players playing this team, not playing the tradition? And for those of you who don't know what mystique is, it's basically the old time term for aura. So about Alabama's aura. How do you make sure that your team knows that they're playing this team and not the tradition? Signetti had the perfect response. And he said, you probably know more about the mystique than they do. Our guys just know what they see on tape.
Yep.
And that's 100% right. And that is just a cold, hard quote from Signetti, who just produces and turns doubters into believers. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, hell of a game from him as well, too. 14 completions for 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had more touchdown passes than incompletions. He finished 14-16. And then shout out to the dual back. I talked about them last week. Knock, you shouted them out. Black and Hemby. They both go for Hemby went for 89 yards and a touchdown, and then Black goes for 99 yards and a touchdown. And they just beat them up offensively in the trenches. You know that that's the case whenever your center, and basically he ended up giving it to the whole offensive line, wins the MVP of this game. So shout out to them, man. They're just so good. And the crazy thing is they just are reloading with some of the guys that they're getting in the transfer portal again as well, too. So this is not a fluke. Mark Cuban just donated a shit ton of money to them as well, too. People forget Mark Cuban. Yes, he went to Indiana. And you kind of got to feel a little bit for Ty Simpson. I mean, he really couldn't get anything going. It was his last collegiate game, as he just declared for the NFL draft a little bit ago. But we talked about it last week, Knock. I said it verbatim. Alabama cannot run the ball, and they could not run the ball again this week. They finished with 17 carries for 23 yards and just didn't look like the Alabama that we know, but we're not really surprised because they aren't. Like Kurt Signetti said, these reporters know more about the mystique than the team does. We just watch film and we get shit done.
I fell into that mystique trap as well. Very seldom do I like to admit when I'm wrong, but I was wrong. I told the fans take Alabama plus 7.5 because of the tradition. And shame on me, shame on me. But I mean, Indiana, like you said, Mike, and we'll start with the offensive line. This is one of the better offensive lines and units that I've seen collectively for a college football program and a team in quite some time. I mean, these guys didn't allow.
Shout out to Pat Coogan. That dude's a beast.
They didn't allow anybody to get to Fernando Mendoza. I mean, Mendoza his legs were just as impressive as his arm was when they played Bama. Like you said, it was a 38-3 slaughter. Just no hope for the Crimson Tide and good. I love seeing the tradition end, despite my pick. But with that being said, dude, Indiana, Kurt Signetti, I was well versed on what he had said about Alabama and their aura. This guy's awesome, bro. I'm gonna always say it. Google him, like you said, gives you hope. Like, you just have to like the guy. Like, there's no way you can't like this dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. This guy's an absolute winner. He does what he does, and again, I just think Indiana's going to wipe the floor with Oregon, but I'll tell you why. I'll tell you my reasoning why when we get to that point. But I don't maybe wipe the floor, maybe not, but I think they beat Oregon back to back.
Yeah, and Signetti gave us another all-time kind of like meme that's been going around whenever he was given that like kind of intimidating look, like, what the fuck are you doing lining up to go for it on 4th down? And then they called the timeout, came back out, and it just looked like he was like, bro, you do not want to do this. Like, I know what you're going to do. You're not going to get it. And guess what? They didn't get it. So, they absolutely dominated them. 407 yards gained by Indiana. To Alabama's just 193. So shout out to the Hoosiers, man. Shout out to all their fans. Like, absolutely ate shit since the start of college football ever began, and now they're finally getting to experience the high life of it. So we'll move on from that game, and we'll talk about the last one that happened, the most exciting game of the weekend, the best one for sure. There's no debating that. Ole Miss, the Rebels, baby. They continue to get it done. They keep giving a middle finger straight to Lane Kiffin's face. You don't want to coach us? Fine, fuck you. We'll go out here and we'll still win it. 39-34. They beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Knock, you could kick us off with this one.
I don't know if you saw the whole game in its entirety. I watched it down to the very final zero hitting on the clock. Two things I want to laugh with you about, Mike. Spread. It was 5 point game at the end. Spread was 3 or 3.5, and they received the kickoff and tried to do some schoolyard bull crap, and the ball just ends up rolling backwards and hits the pylon for a safety to make it a 5 point. I mean, I know there was. Thank God I quit gambling, by the way, because that there was people out there who put their freaking rent on whatever it was, whatever the live spread was, but that's unbelievable. And not to mention, okay, the final like 10, 12, 15 seconds of the game took like 10 real life minutes.
Yeah.
Had to do a bunch of. So I don't know if you noticed, but like it wasn't the band, it was like some crew kept bringing the podium on field after every. So 3 times it happened. They bring the podium onto the field. That everybody thinks the game is over. The refs tell them to go back to the sideline. They think the game's over again. They bring the podium back out onto the field. Times this happened. So like the last 8 to 10 seconds of the ball game ended up being like a 5 to 10 minute affair. It was crazy, Mike. I'm watching this in the bar. I'm laughing my ass off. So it was a good time, great game. Congrats.
Yeah, it was crazy. My wife kept asking, like, what's going on? I got to tell her, like, technically, like, the game's not over. There's still a second left, and then you get an untimed down and all this shit with the onside kick. The clock doesn't move or anything. So, but yeah, big ups to Trinidad Chambliss, man. We cannot stop talking about this dude. Just another unbelievable performance. That pass to get them into field goal range and fourth down whenever you think it's kind of just going to be they're playing to go to overtime, and he comes out and he completes a 40-yard pass to get them into field goal range was just unbelievable. 30 of 46, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kawan Lacey was a beast, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then shout out to Harrison Wallace and Stribling, the wide receiver core out there. Wallace had 156 yards and a touchdown, and then Stribling had a lot of good catches and some clutch performances. I think he might have caught that 40-yard pass as well, too, at the end of the game, if I'm not mistaken. He had 122 yards through the air. And shout out to their offensive line, too. Georgia did not register a sack, and they only had 3 tackles for loss compared to Ole Miss having 2 sacks and then 9 tackles for loss. So shout out to the Rebels, man. They're continuing to move forward and, look like they want to play for themselves in the university and really give it to people who didn't believe in them, more specifically Lane Kiffin. And shout out to my boy Pete Golding, the new head coach there as well, too. Honestly, bro, he outcoached Kirby Smart in that fourth quarter. He looked like he was ready for this moment, and he showed it. They scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to come back and to not only come back, tie the game, but then to win it. So, yeah, man, shout out to Ole Miss. That game was an all-timer. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. And with that being said, we will move on to the games that are happening tomorrow. We'll talk about the first one, Thursday, January 8th. This game's kicking off at 7:30. This will be Miami and Ole Miss. I am really, really looking forward to this game. Right now, it's Miami -3.5. Over under is 52. Knock, do you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to, Mike. Definitely believe it's going to be a higher scoring affair. I think Miami's offense, and I do think Carson Beck, establish some sort of passing game in there to kind of keep the load off of Fletcher. And I think Fletcher's still going to do what he does. Ole Miss has a stout defense. So does Miami. But I think something has to give for the Hurricanes in terms of some sort of offense here. You can't just live and die by scoring. What they have versus Ohio State, like
24 points or what rushing?
Just no points.
24.
Okay, 24 and then 10 the first game. So, I like to see a little bit more passing attack there from Carson Beck, but I'm going to bet with my heart here. I got to take Trinidad Chambliss in the offense and Pete Golding and that defense. And Trinidad Chambliss, not just a good quarterback, but he's a good kid too, and
Hmm.
I really like his personality a lot. He's a firm believer in the Lord. But he just makes all the throws. He just does it right, and he just seems like he's just got that veteran presence to him, even though like he's a young kid. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm rocking out with Ole Miss here. I like them +3.5 or +3, and I'm gonna, I would take them on the money line, and again, I would take the over as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off what you said about Trinidad Chambliss, I mean, he didn't start the year coming in. Remember, he took over, I think, week 3, and he's racked up over 4,100 total yards, 29 touchdowns. And Ole Miss is second in the nation with averaging 496 yards per game, and they're averaging 37.6 points, which is 10th in the FBS. So Miami's defense is going to have their handful. Trinidad also did come out and say if his waiver gets granted for another year, he is going to be staying put at Ole Miss, so he's staying loyal to the program. Kwan Lacey announced that he's coming back as well too, so he'll be there again. So I'm also going to bet with you on this one. Again, I was never really a big Miami fan, but their defense does worry me or does have me worried a little bit with picking this just because of how good they are. But I don't know if they've seen an offense as potent as this Ole Miss one. Is Ohio State's offense good? Yes, they win ball games, but they don't produce yards and points like this Ole Miss one. And again, it's more so me betting with my heart. I've talked about Trinidad James since before we even dove into the season with transferring to Ole Miss, not sure if he was going to even talk about or if he was even going to get playing time, to be honest with you. And I'm going to take the Ole Miss Rebels plus the 3.5. I might even just sprinkle something on the money line. And if I was to take the under or the over, I would definitely take the over as well too. What you grinning about over there?
I just out of curiosity, where's Trinidad James from?
Oh, Trinidad James, is that what I said? Trinidad Chambliss. Look at me. I
Hey,
was just rambling there.
you're 2 for 2 today because earlier you were talking about the Arizona Falcons. So um,
Oh my God.
add your
Sorry.
usually it's me fucking up over there. So
Sorry, everybody. I'm back to my 4 a.m. wake up calls to hit the gym. So I'm kind of going through it here with some mental fog. So just bear with me. We're recording this later in the day. So let's move on to the other game. This one's taking place Friday, January 9th. This is another 7:30 kickoff. Oregon Ducks versus the Indiana Hoosiers. A rematch of a very, very good game earlier in the year when Indiana went up to Eugene, Oregon and took down the Ducks when a lot of other programs really can't do that at their home stadium. So I think it's going to be a pretty close game. The spread right now is Indiana -3.5, over unders 48.5. Knock, we've talked about it more specifically. Like it's hard to beat a team twice. I love Oregon. I love Dan Lanning, and I think he might have an upper hand right now. They were doing like the joint press conference with him and Signetti, and he made Signetti laugh, which I feel like is very hard to do. So you can mark a point up for Oregon already. They're winning this game 1-0 so far. But I got to take Indiana, man. And I want them to get to the national championship. I almost said get back to the national championship, which would have been nuts because they never have been. But the way that they plan, look like they've been an established program. But me, Signetti and the Indiana Hoosiers -3.5. It looks like it might shift down to 2.5, which I like that even more. A field goal game. And then if I was betting on this, I'd probably take that under. If that over is so low, 47.5. Just give me the over. Just give it to me.
I'm gonna ride out with you, and there's a couple of reasons as to why. First and foremost, I can agree to the fact that I mean Indiana, it's just I tried rooting against them last week or betting against them or telling the fans to fade the spread. Uh, they are so dominant, Mike. It's just some team. It's just that year. It's just their year. I'd like to see a good game as well, and I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game, and I'll tell you why. As good as Indiana's offense has been, Oregon's defensive line is tough. They are
Hmm.
tough, man. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Which side of the ball is line both offense and defense going to excel here in this game? Another reason why I think Indiana is kind of easily going to win this as well, even though I'm praying it's close. Oregon's dealing with something that's pretty interesting this far in the season. It's transfer portal issues. I mean, they've got first of all, freshman running back Jordan Davison is out. I think he has a broken collarbone. Um,
Hmm.
he ran for, I think he had 2 touchdowns versus Texas Tech, and he scored versus James Madison. So he's been a big, crucial part of their run here. They've got a couple other running backs that are down and entering a transfer portal as well, on top of a couple of wide receivers and a couple of defensive backs as well. Now, that's in their back depth, more so guys who really haven't played too much, but they are slim pickings there at a couple of skill positions. So I'm really intrigued as to what Oregon's going to do. I think they're fine at the wide receiver spot ultimately.
Hmm.
More back there a couple of weeks ago versus James Madison. So, um, guys are going to be available. So Oregon's missing some pieces. It's going to be interesting to see how Dan Lanning um, figures out a way to overcome that adversity, especially against such a good team in such an important game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow and to Friday. These games are going to be electric. They're going to be awesome. I'm hoping for some close games, unlike some of the ones that we had last week. But moving over, Knock, I know you wanted to talk a little bit of transfer portal. Any guys that you saw that committed that you wanted to talk about, or anything like that?
Absolutely. Shout out to Iowa State and their entire team going to Penn. That's freaking awesome. Can't watch Rocco Beck throw to the same exact wide receivers as he threw to this year and struggled to amass 2,000 yards passing. That's awesome. Um, I will say this
Hey,
though.
Penn State is ranked. They have the number one portal class right now, and I think it's majority because, like you said, I think there's legit like 20 players that have transferred from Iowa State to Penn State. So they have the most. They have 24 transfers incoming.
Well,
So I think that plays into them having the number one class so far.
totally. And like and not good for them. I mean, they lose Ethan Grunkmeyer. He goes to Virginia Tech with James Franklin, so they need a quarterback. Rocco Beck he's solid. He's gonna do a good job there. I think the hire of Iowa State's former head coach was phenomenal. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'm sorry. But like bringing some of those guys is a good thing because I think that they were a good team. However, it's going to blend well with Penn State and their number one class of the portal because Penn State does get the recruits. And you got to remember, if they're still ranked number one, Penn State did have a lot of guys drop out and go to Pittsburgh and go to West Virginia and go to some other schools. They, you know,
This is just their portal ranking. Their regular ranking for high schoolers, I think, is like 100 and something. They
okay.
only had they only had two signees on signing day so far, but that was early signing day. So they could turn it around a little bit and get some guys to commit back. You never know, but I think a lot of those guys are following James Franklin to Virginia Tech.
Facts. Okay. And yeah, and if we want to move along, we're talking about quarterbacks like Alonzo Barnett. I think he's going to transfer over to Central Florida. Josh Hoover will be
Mhm.
TCU to
Indiana.
Byron Brown went from South Florida to Auburn. Colton Joseph, Old Dominion's quarterback, for those who don't know, is completely a stud and is going to Wisconsin. I'm really excited about that. Can he
Hmm.
revitalize Wisconsin's program? That he's a running quarterback who can throw. I mean, this guy's electric, so that'll be interesting to see. And there's 155 quarterbacks, Mike. I think we were talking earlier. 155
Hmm.
quarterbacks in the portal, 136 Division One college football teams. So hopefully everybody gets their pick of the litter. And
Yeah.
you know,
It's going to be interesting. I saw a couple of other ones to just throw out here. Aiden Childs, he's going to be transferring from Michigan State down to Northwestern, which is pretty funny because I believe Pat Fitzgerald is actually coaching Michigan State. I believe he got that job, so he's like leaving to go back where Pat came from, years prior. Another one that kind of surprised me, Kenny Minchie, the transfer from Notre Dame. I don't know if you saw that. It had a lot of fans up in arms as well, too. He gave his commitment to Nebraska, and then less than 24 hours later, switched and committed to Kentucky. Excuse me, my God, told you I'm having this brain fog right now. So they think that they came in and threw him a bag last second, and then Austin Simmons, he's going to be transferring from Ole Miss once this run is done. He's going to Missouri, so that's locked into stone. One of the ones that I'm really interested to see too, Drew Mestamaker. We didn't even talk about him. He went from being a walk-on to rated as a 5-star transfer. He's following his head coach to Oklahoma State. They have the second ranked transfer class in the country. But a couple quarterbacks that I'm interested to see where they land. One being Dylan Raiola. I saw a lot of people predicting that it could potentially be Oregon if Dante Moore moves on. So that would be interesting to see. And then BJ Lagway, he's still not committed anywhere. It's interesting because I saw that he really was loving his Florida State visit, but then Florida State went out and got, who did they get? I'm trying to look and see here. It's not popping up, but they did get a transfer quarterback. I'm not sure if that's solidified with that guy going to be the starter or anything like that.
Mike, Wake Forest, Ashton Daniels.
Oh, yeah, Ashton Daniels. So he's transferring down to Florida State. So it'll be interesting to see where those two line up and where they go. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's anybody's game. Yeah, Auburn's quarterback. He came from Auburn, Ashton Daniels. Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. We're having brain farts today. It's all good. It's later in the day. We did some hard work earlier. And then one of the most highly touted running backs in the portal as well, too, Caleb Hawkins from North Texas. He's also going to be following his head coach and his quarterback to Oklahoma State. So this is a team that you never know. They could maybe make a transformation in 1 year. They're also getting Morin Horn from Texas Tech, a cornerback. That's going to be a nice big pickup for them. And they're just going to keep getting more guys. I mean, Wyatt Young from North Texas, he's going there again. That's basically like their whole team is going to be going to Oklahoma State. So I'm excited to see what they could do there and if they could turn the tide of that program and see, what really happens. But yeah, man, Indiana, like I said, they're reloading. They got a couple of 4-stars already. They found their quarterback for next year once Fernando Mendoza leaves for the league. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like you said, Knock, there's a ton of players in. I think I saw a post that said that there's like 4,000 or 5,000 kids in the transfer portal right now that are looking for a new home. So I'll be interested to see what shakes up and then see if there's any other transfers once these games are over.
Yeah. I wanted to throw a post up today. I'm gonna wait. I'll give it another week, or so maybe, just because there's going to be a lot of movement going on. Still a couple of games to happen. I'm sure, whoever loses here this week, a couple of guys are going to transfer out and go elsewhere. So, yeah, we'll sit here and we'll wait on that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll keep bringing you guys some good content for that. But Knock, anything else? I think that just about does it for everything. It was a longer show, so we appreciate you guys that stuck around and listened to everything. We had a lot to catch up on, but the season is slowly winding down. Unfortunately, it sucks, but it is what it is. We'll continue to deliver on some content and bring you guys some news and some stories. So make sure, as always, you go follow us on TikTok, on Instagram. Our sites are really starting to pick up some views, so we appreciate you new followers and everything like that too. And then obviously Twitter and Threads, all that stuff. SportsWithSkiz. Subscribe to the YouTube, which we're finally over 100. Shout out to you guys again too. A little cornerstone there for what's next to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're rooting Ole Miss and we're rooting Indiana over here. I think that'll be a great national championship game. Both have a lot to play for. There's some meaning for both teams too. So if you watch those games, make sure if you're drinking, you stay inside, because DUI is straight to jail now. So not just across Pennsylvania. So stay indoors and drink, guys. Don't go out and do anything stupid.
Yes, drinking at the bar, watching games is overrated, especially if you're invested in these games. So I think that just about does it for us. So appreciate you guys, like we said, as always, and we'll see you here next time.